Welcome to the Brothers in Prayer podcast. Now, with your hosts Drew Hammond, Xander Johnson, and Dylan Burkett.
Hello and welcome back to the Brothers in Prayer podcast. My name is Drew Hammond.
I'm Dylan Burkett.
And I'm Xander Johnson.
And we have a very special guest this week, my good friend Brendan Benigno. Brendan, tell us a little bit about yourself. What year are you at CBC and what are you involved in?
Yeah, thanks, Drew. I'm a junior here at CBC, class of 2022. I think most people know me as that cyclist kind of guy, doing triathlons, mostly outside of school, but I do cross country. There's a lot of great overlap between BIP and cross country. I think you're really similar with kind of the relationships you kind of build, same kind of stuff.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. So, yeah, and so Brendan kind of hinted over that. He's actually a triathlete, which I think is kind of cool. That's one of the most insane things to do, and so it's he's being humble about it. He's one of the most incredible athletes I know. And real quick, before we get started, I love how you talked about the crossover between, like, cross-country and Brothers in Prayer. Talk a little more about that. Like, when you're running cross-country, is there kind of that aspect of, like, that brotherhood that you formed in Brothers in Prayer that's relevant when you're running?
Dude, absolutely. Because, I mean, if you're feeling down on one day, it's going to be those guys pushing you through to get you on. Even if you're having a bad day, if you kind of support, someone who's also struggling, I mean, it just makes that bond grow exponentially.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, and if you could talk about, like, one way, I know we're going to get into your talk here in a second, but one way that, like, you have and your BIP friends have helped you grown in the past year, let's say, what would it be?
You're talking about in, like, running or in faith or
both,
in
either
life?
way.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to not even just this year, but kind of building the relationship of freshman and sophomore year, kind of building up that base, because you just know people. Once you start to know people for, like, who they are, it really helps you you can connect on a whole different level. And they've really helped me to kind of push the limits, kind of in sports, but then also kind of take it back and take some time in the chapel, during school.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. Awesome. Well, we wanted to get started here because you gave the amazing Brothers in Prayer talk this Thursday. So if you could just go over it, give us some of your main talking points from this Thursday and just kind of let's see what you got.
Yeah, so I'll pop you guys the same question I asked the guys in the chapel. What are you guys' biggest pet peeves?
So one of my pet peeves, is whenever people take forever to respond to a text. Like, I'll leave 24 hours.
I think he's talking about me for a second.
I look straight at you. Yeah, you take a long time.
That's me.
And yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. Just I'll give you a 24-hour window, but then, a little over that, you should probably look at your phone. You should probably acknowledge that.
My pet peeve is whenever, like, I tell someone something and I know it's right, but then they still do the opposite of what I say.
Yeah.
So, like, let's say that, like, you have to go out to your car, and, like, I'm like, oh, the backpack's in the trunk. And, like, then they go out to the car and they look in the front seat first. I'm like, come on, I just told you where it was.
That's funny. I think my biggest pet peeve, it's a pretty common one, and it's kind of stereotypical, but it's probably bullying, right? It's like in a weird way, like, I just don't see why somebody would put somebody else down, just like because they can. That makes me mad. And so if I see it, I'll try to actively kind of disarm it and help the person who's getting bullied out. But that's just kind of my biggest pet peeve. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I kind of relate to you.
Probably the best pet peeve to have.
No kidding. Definitely. Stand for something great. Yeah, so personally, my pet peeve, one of the big ones that stands out to me is just things not being organized, or if I've done something, people come up and mess it up, just pushes your buttons, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think going a little bit more deeply, I think everyone has someone, maybe it's more people than just one person, probably more than one person, that just kind of drives you crazy. Maybe it's one of those things where it's they're doing your pet peeve. Maybe they're not responding within that 24-hour period. Maybe they're bullying somebody. Maybe they're Dylan. Forgot your pet peeve.
Just like telling someone
yeah,
to do something simple.
Maybe they're doing that and they just repetitively. Maybe it's over a week. Starts to get on your nerves. Maybe it goes on for a month. Maybe it goes on for longer, a year, more, indefinitely. So I have a lot of experience in this kind of area. First off, starting with, I guess you'd say like middle school. I take things very personally. I don't know if you guys take things personally, you kind of let things slide, but I take things pretty personally. I also, and also just don't let things go. You know, you kind of want to get your right way. And that's
100%.
That's pretty typical middle schoolers. So like my parents would, give me some suggestions. No, it always had to be my way. My sister, so many things that sisters, little siblings can do to kind of tick you off. I don't know if you guys have any siblings.
I don't have any siblings actually.
I have a younger sister, so.
Your sister? Yeah. What
I
grade?
love her, but I know exactly what you're talking about. She is a freshman.
Gotcha. Yep. Mine's 8th grade.
Yeah, I'm the middle child, man. I'm sandwiched between a Luke Hammett, which is like the I don't know what you describe him as, and then the annoying little sister, So I'm kind of right in the middle, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. So it just like kind of maybe it's like a silly thing, but then it just kind of builds and it builds and it builds, and it can lead to those kind of feelings of resentment over the course of a week, maybe even longer. And so that really, it takes your time and energy out from the things that you really need to be, working on your life. It kind of drains the happiness out. But I kind of, realized coming into freshman year that it's just not worth it. It's not worth, spending all that time that could be focused on, school, sports, or even channeling that as motivation. It just wasn't worth it. Then we kind of get into freshman year. I think I have everything worked out. And like I mentioned, cyclist. I go out with my dad, training rides, out in Wildwood. So roads, not that bad. But we were crossing a busier road. End up getting hit by a distracted driver, and it hurt. Yeah, it's not something I would, want anybody to experience, but it hit me in physical, obviously, spiritual, mental, and emotional ways. But like I said, I thought I was done. I thought I had kind of mastered letting go of things. I went on to a whole different level of just anger, hatred, all directed at this lady who I didn't even know her name. I think her first name was, I don't even know. But I was just so fixated. Like, it almost became like an idol,
100%.
You have these good idols. You can have, be dedicating all your time to, make TV your idol. Mm-hmm. But I was making this negative thing almost like an idol. I was kind of placing it in greater importance to God. And so while I obviously didn't wish on her, I wasn't going to go drive over there and, hit her back.
Right.
Because, it's not the thing to do.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. But, like, I would be, like, cussing her out of my head. I would be, at one point, probably my lowest point, I was thinking about, writing her a letter to make her feel more guilty than she already did. And she already said she had been losing sleep over it. So that was something that I'm definitely not proud of. It was definitely something that was definitely twisted, definitely messed up. And those things led to me just having some, spiritual dryness. Really wasn't feeling like getting into prayer. I really wasn't feeling, you have those great retreat highs. You have those adoration highs. Even if I was going to adoration, you don't really feel that because you're not truly focused on, say, like the Blessed Sacrament. You're thinking about that. Yeah, exactly. But kind of with the help of Mary, the guys here at Brothers in Prayer talking about that great bond, we did a thing called Mondays with Mary.
Shout out.
Exactly. And get that started back
Still
up.
Still gonna be a thing.
But it was a great thing, praying the rosary every Monday morning. actually Wednesdays and Fridays as well. It just really helped me to just take some time, just give up the day's struggles, the smaller things that I had trouble letting go, and eventually that kind of accumulated in me giving up kind of my the big one, and you still have, it's been what, a year and a half, 2 years. You still get things you get angry about. You still get grudges. But I think that experience has really taught me to turn to God and let Him make life easier. There's no reason, like I said, to spend all that time, resenting someone. There's no reason to spend all that time. It just leads to, better performance. It leads to, just a happier smile if you just give that up to God. So that's the gist of what my talk was kind of about in terms of my personal story.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
I think that's a great talk, and just a few points that I kind of took away from that there, that letting it go. I mean, the title of your talk at BIP, if I'm not mistaken, was like "Let It Go," right?
Just let it go.
Let it go. And I think sometimes in life, when we talk about letting stuff go, it can seem so easy just telling people about how you let it go or how they can let it go. But when you're actually in the moment, it's really hard. Like you talked about, like struggling with that for so long. I know for me, some of the things that I've been struggling with recently, like both my grandpas actually have had heart problems recently and like had to get either surgery or gone to the hospital.
Gotcha.
And like stuff like that is like out of your control, like you couldn't control that woman hitting you, and like I can't control my grandpa, either one of them, having heart issues or stuff like that. That's just stuff that you have to give to God. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is simple prayers. And like this is just works for me. I know everyone may have their internal process, but one thing that I would suggest for anyone, if they're wondering how to give stuff up to God, can be as simple as this. So you make the sign of the cross, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And you're like, God, I have trust in you. I have faith in you. I have faith in you. I have trust in you. And just repeat that again and again and again until you start to find some peace with it, And that's what works for me. I know you guys probably have your own things that you do, but yeah, that's just one suggestion. But that's a great talk.
Yeah, Benino, something that really stuck out to me was how you talked about how this anger and just towards like someone or towards a thing, you start to idolize it, and you really start to make it that one thing in your life that almost dictates like what you do. And the way you said it is, it almost like corrupts you in a way. And really what that made me think of is, you guys ever tried to look through like fogged glass where you like can't see all the way through it? It's almost like we are in our lives, we look through a window to God, like a clear window just like this. But then whenever we have all these things in our life that like they start to fog that glass, and like it totally took a hit on you spiritually, because it's almost like you couldn't see God as clear through that like glass. Like you said, you were in adoration, and just it wasn't doing the same thing. And I think if we can really just over time through prayer, and like you said, through Mary, kind of make that glass clear again, if that makes sense.
Constantly work at it.
Yeah, and then eventually it will tend to go away, and we will make God at the priority of our lives. Sorry.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming to me. Yeah.
I think
I really like that.
Yeah, I think to your point, I don't know if you guys heard Gospel of Matthew, the parable of the rich young man. Right?
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, a little bit. We all know he's doing the 10 Commandments. He's got everything, figured out. Ask Jesus, hey, what do I need to do? Go to heaven. He says, get rid of all your possessions, right? And he goes away sad because he can't. A lot of times, we kind of view that as, all the positive things, the wealth, the relationships, his social status, as kind of being those things that bind us to earth. But it's also the negative things. It's also those things that kind of, sometimes we're afraid to let go because they kind of provide us with something to rely on. And I think what's most important is we don't rely on those things. We rely on God.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that you kind of made present throughout your entire talk was the fact that we can't let these things get in between our relationship with God, right? Because even like Xander, right, your biggest pet peeve would be when people take a really long time to respond to text, right? Obviously. Everyone that knows me knows I take way too long to respond. It's like embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
And so Xander, right? You still acknowledge that even though it may annoy you that I take this long to respond to text, you still acknowledge like that I am kind of like have qualities that you find good, right? You don't completely like shut. Depends on the day, right? But no, you don't completely like cut off all ties with me just because I annoy you when I do that one thing, right? Just like how when Benigno, right, this woman did something that affected pretty much his entire life, at least his mentally for a period of 1 to 2 years, he still didn't let that get in between his relationship with God, right? And so that's what I thought was really, really amazing.
I liked what you said whenever you brought up the Gospel of Matthew. Dylan's prayer was sign of the cross, right? And what was it that you said?
Jesus, I have trust in
Jesus,
you.
I have trust.
Jesus, I have faith in you.
Yeah.
Simple like that.
And one of my, just a simple prayer, I like to, because Jesus always presents everything in such a simple way. And like, we always think it has to be so complex and everything, but it's really so simple. And one prayer I just love is just to think, Jesus, I give my all to you. Like, we always want to present the positives or the good things, but then we want to put the negative just like away in a little box. But maybe one of my biggest prayers is just trying to give my all to Jesus, trying to give my positive, my negative, because he's the one that's going to fix that negative. If we just put it in a box, he's not going to be able, like, if we put it in the box, we're not giving it up to him, we're not offering up to him, and then it's not really going to get fixed, and we're just going to, it's going to dwell on us and take a deeper toll on us.
It's a great point.
Awesome. Well, guys, that is amazing. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope to see you again soon. And on that note, St. John Baptist Day of the South,
Pray for us.
Live Jesus in our hearts
Forever.
Thanks for listening to the Brothers in Prayer podcast. Our producer is Peter Coco. Our creative director is Xander Johnson. And our media relations director is Drew Hammett. Tune in every Thursday for more.